Terrorism can be classified as either domestic or international, depending on the origin, base, and objectives of the perpetrators. The FBI categorizes terrorist groups based on their political leanings, but another useful classification method focuses on the psychological motivations of those involved. Federal law defines terrorism as the unlawful use of force or violence against persons or property to intimidate or coerce a government, the civilian population, or any segment thereof, in furtherance of political or social objectives. Domestic terrorism is committed by individuals or groups primarily associated with United States-based movements that promote extremist political, religious, social, or environmental ideologies. The distinction between domestic terrorism and hate crimes is sometimes blurred, as individuals linked to terrorist movements may also be charged with hate crimes. A clear example of domestic terrorism is the Oklahoma City bombing on April 19, 1995. Timothy McVeigh detonated a truck bomb at the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, killing 168 people, including 19 children, and injuring 684. McVeigh sought revenge against the federal government for the FBI seizures at Waco, Texas, 1993, and Ruby Ridge, Idaho. Enraged by these events, he carried out his attack 3 years later. The most well-known instance of international terrorism in the United States is the September 11, 2001, attacks, which remain the most extensively covered by media and research. Beyond the domestic and international categories, terrorism can also be classified based on ideological leanings. This classification system includes 3 primary categories, as follows. Right-wing extremism, groups or individuals with anti-government or racist ideologies who often commit hate crimes and acts of violence. They may be motivated by government policies they oppose, such as gun control laws, taxation, or civil rights legislation, for example, marriage equality laws or protections for undocumented immigrants' children. Left-wing extremism, historically rooted in working-class movements aiming to eliminate class distinctions. In the 1970s, radical left-wing groups such as the Weather Underground, an offshoot of Students for a Democratic Society, and the Symbionese Liberation Army went beyond activism to violent acts, including bombings of government buildings and banks, and attacks on law enforcement. Special interest extremists, groups focused on specific causes, often using terrorist tactics to promote their agendas. Examples include radical environmental groups, which use violence to protest environmental threats. Nuclear, biological, or chemical terrorists, who employ hazardous substances in attacks, a practice sometimes referred to as bioterrorism. This classification system helps law enforcement agencies analyze and combat different forms of terrorism based on their ideological drivers and operational methods. Now for an important message from Professor Reese. Having served as a detective for over 20 years, Professor Reese, formerly Detective Reese, knows the importance of clear, accurate, and well-worded documentation. It is an essential skill required in the criminal justice system. He also knows that reading enhances your writing skills. So, read your book!